Hi guys, I wanted to get on here and tell you a little bit about how important movement is biologically and to your cells. So as we get older, our hormones are less and less, and our hormones actually protect our cells, and this is how it protects the replication of our mitochondria. And I'm specifically talking about your muscle cells. So your muscle cells don't necessarily regenerate. They don't multiply and get rid of the old ones. They actually just rebuild. They just rebuild and reformulate your cells, but your mitochondria and your muscle cells they do replicate. And as you get older, that replication process sucks. It is less efficient, and our mitochondria that we regenerate in our muscle cells is not as efficient, and those mitochondria are damaged. They're just damaged. When they replicate, they don't replicate perfect. When we were children, when we were younger, they replicated perfect. And when you have perfect mitochondria, your cell is so much more efficient. The glucose comes into the cell, gets into the mitochondria, you can make lots of energy, and then you can use it. So the point of the mitochondria is we're trying to make energy. It's like the engine of your cells. Like you bring the gasoline into the mitochondria and it produces energy, and then we can use it to do things. So when we get older, that efficiency is our mitochondria. But we still make them, we just don't make as much, and we don't make them as perfect. So that being said, why movement is so essential. Another thing that we're fighting against when we get older is insulin resistance. Naturally have it. That means our cells, when we have the glucose in our blood and the glucose is trying to get into the cell, the sugar's trying to get into the cell to get into the mitochondria and make the energy, that is blocked. As we get older, we just naturally have insulin resistance. So how do we combat that? And it's simple. It's movement. Your cells can get the glucose that's in your blood from the blood, because we don't need it there. We don't need the sugar in the blood. We don't need glucose in the blood. We need to drive it into the cells. So that's useless. We need to get it into the cells. You can do that without insulin at all. Movement creates a channel. Muscle contractions create a channel from the blood that's in the cell, the sugar that's in the cell, the blood, and drives that sugar into the cells. We want it in the cells because that's where we can make energy inside the mitochondria. So sugar in the blood, we got to get that into the cells. You can do that through movement without insulin. That's why movement is so important, and especially so important when we get to be our age, because our insulin resistance is higher, and that's blocking that. You need that insulin to get the sugar into the cells. You don't need that. You need to move, because muscle contraction creates a channel from the blood sugar into the cells, and that's all. And if you think about what kind of I need to go work out every day, and yes, working out is great. Muscle contraction, like lifting weights, amazing for you. But just contracting low-level movement is that muscle that creates that channel, creates the sugar from the blood into the cell, drives it into the cell, gets the fuel from the blood, drives it into the cell, drives it into the mitochondria, and our mitochondria can use that to produce energy, produce ATP for us, just through movement. And I'm talking walking, but this is like throughout the day. So the point of what I'm trying to say is throughout the day, every 90 minutes, every hour and a half, every hour, get up for 3 minutes, muscle contraction from walking. That is enough to drive that sugar in the blood into the cells without insulin. That's the beauty of it. People with type 2 diabetes, when they exercise, because type 2 diabetes, their cells are resistant to insulin. They can't get the sugar into the cell because the insulin isn't there. It's blocking. Because that insulin is what drives that sugar into the cell. But when you have insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, they can't get in. Movement. When people with type 2 diabetes just add movement into their lives, their blood sugar is normalized as much as anybody that doesn't have type 2 diabetes, and for hours later. So movement for people that have insulin resistance, that's all they need, because you don't need the insulin to drive the sugar into the cell. It's all just this channel that gets created from your muscle fibers without insulin at all. That's the beauty of it. So think about things in like movement in a biological way where, oh, I need to move and you need to drive the sugar from the blood into the cells. And that's what you're doing. You're pumping the muscle just by walking. Maybe you're at your desk and you just stand up and you just hover. You are creating that channel that gets the sugar into the blood, especially after you eat any meal, a snack. You want to get up and you want to move. Perfectly said. Why? Because that's going to drive the sugar from your blood into the cells without insulin. You don't need it. You just need to move. So after you eat, you have a higher spike of blood sugar, right? Your sugar in the blood is higher. We want to drive that into our cells. That's going to create energy. All we have to do is move. And like I said, just get up for 3 minutes. I'm not talking about go to the gym every hour. I'm talking about getting up for 3 minutes, walk. I'm talking about if you can't get up and walk, you're at your desk, you're at a desk job, you're just hovering. You get up from your seat. I can still type like this. I'm contracting these muscles. These muscles are having to work. What if you're at your desk and you have a loop band? Loop band. Okay, I'm using muscles, and that muscle contraction is driving that sugar into our cells. It doesn't do any good out here in the blood. We need to get it inside. So throughout the day, think about this throughout the day. You've got to keep moving throughout the day, not just one time, not just working out in the morning and then sitting. If you sit for 5 hours after you, for any time, if you sit for 5 hours, which is totally what we do when we're working, we sit, right? We have to. We have deadlines, right? And like you're there, I understand, but 5 hours, like completely negates if you worked out in the morning and negates it. It's gone. You have to constantly try to think about every 90 minutes I'm going to get up and do something. Every hour I'm going to get up and walk. Just walk. Just walk. Doesn't have to be crazy. Then you can level up from there, right? Then you can, get even more muscle contractions through lifting weights, through brisk walking, through whatever. But think about movement as something you want to continually do, because we don't want to, if we work out in the morning, we don't want to just, okay, that's like shot. That negates the whole entire thing. Working out in the morning, having all those great muscle contractions, then you're eating and sitting, and your blood sugar is just hanging out in your blood. Got to drive it in, and that's just movement all day long. Especially after you have food, any meal, you want to get up and walk. You want to drive that sugar into your blood. So just remember that kind of in a biological way where, Stacy says to move all the time and like I can't do whatever. Think about like I've got to drive that sugar into my cells, and I can do that just by walking. So all throughout the day, get up and move, just little bits. Don't overdo it. Don't overthink it. Sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, I have to walk 30 minutes after lunch. No, you don't. You don't have to work. That'd be great, but that's not reality. We don't have that luxury where we can go for a walk 30 minutes after every meal when you're at a desk job. I get it. Don't overthink it. Sometimes if we overthink it, then we end up not doing anything. So we just like, well, F it, I can't do it. I can't get up for 30 minutes. I've got to, 2 minutes, or just hover, squat over your desk, whatever. You're contracting the muscles. So don't overthink it so much. Tiny bits of movement, so much more valuable than working out in the morning and sitting 10 hours at a desk. 100%. If, good for you, you worked out in the morning and then you sat all day, compared to if you didn't work out in the morning and you were at your desk and you got up and walked every 5 minutes. Every hour, every 90 minutes you got up and walked 5 minutes. Which is better? This one. Constant movement. Not constant, but like every hour, every 90 minutes. That is better than working out in the morning and sitting. So remember that. The best combination, working out in the morning and then getting up throughout the day, awesome. But just don't overthink it. Just say, I've got to get up every night. Set an alarm on your phone, or just notice you're like, I've been sitting for like 2 hours. I got to get up. One of my best friends said this was perfectly said. She said, you are more important than your job. You are more important than your job. You are. Your health is more important than your job. That deadline, I promise you, that 2 minutes that you take a walk, well, you're still going to make it. You're still going to be there, and you're more important than that. So remember that you've got to get up and go. And that will take you so much further. Sometimes all we think about is how many steps did I get in, the scale, blah, blah, blah. Stop thinking about it like that. Think about it more like my health, create that sugar channel into the cells and get the energy. Think about more like in a health standpoint rather than what's the scale, what do I look like? So that's my 2 cents for today about just moving and driving that channel from the sugar into the blood, into the cells, into the mitochondria. That's what we want. So y'all have such a great day. If you have any questions, ask, and we'll talk to you soon.